What is going on? It is Nate the Game Guy coming back with another video at hand, and today I want to talk to you guys about should you try to collect for an entire console's library. Whether you want to say you're collecting for the entire library, completing the set, completing the console, whatever the case is, it is essentially you are trying to get and collect every game made for said console. As you guys can see right behind me, I have my complete North American Wii U set. These are all the games ever released in North America, minus a few variants, but in terms of every game release, they are right behind me in North America for the Wii U. Now, completing a set or going for an entire console's library can be fun. However, it isn't all sunshine and rainbows. In this video, I'm going to talk about as to exactly a few things you should consider when trying to complete the set for said game console or any game console of your choice. I'm also going to be talking about the pros and the cons of the matter, so that way you guys can have an informed background, can make some good decisions, and just kind of get a general idea of what's going on when you try to complete an entire set for a game console. So, without further ado, let's take a look into the subject with a little bit of some more detail right after the intro. Alright, before I dive right into this video subject, I just want to give a quick moment and say if you guys find the video to be entertaining, informative, any of that good stuff, please do consider giving the video a like. It really does help me out, helps boost the video up into the YouTube algorithm so our viewers such as yourself can find videos like this a lot easier. And of course, please do consider subscribing because I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, other video game related subjects. So if that is something that interests you guys, please do consider subscribing. But if you're going to subscribe, you gotta hit that bell notification button so that way you will be notified when I upload a video just like this. Now, let's talk about the pros about collecting for an entire game console's library. If you are somebody that really enjoys a game console that you really like, and one of them is your favorite, whether it's Nintendo 64, NES, Sega Genesis, Xbox 360, whatever console it is, it can be fun. And you get this wonderful sense of accomplishment when you get all the games, you get to look at it on a shelf, and you're just like, yeah, I've got every game for that console. It comes with a wonderful feeling of accomplishment. Another thing too that's kind of related to this is that it's really cool to look at your shelf and just see those are all the games that came out for that system. You get to see what every game looks like from A through Z. It's really cool. Like, I gotta say, I love it every time when I walk by my Wii U shelf or I go by some of my Hyperscan games. It's really cool just to see all the games, every game made for that system, right? It's really cool. Also, I think it shows the dedication that you have as a game collector. Now, of course, if you are somebody that doesn't want to collect for a full set, you can still be a dedicated game collector and not have a full set for a game console. But it does show a display of dedication and a stance of where you are as a game collector. I think it's really cool whenever I see a game room tour on YouTube or I see a game collector where they've got multiple sets, where they've got complete sets for Genesis or Wii or PlayStation 2, Sega Saturn, or Master System, right? I think it's really cool to see that just because me personally, I just really enjoy the hobby. I just think it's just really cool to see a full set whenever somebody's got it out on display. So those are just a few pros that you can take into mind when it comes to collecting for an entire game consoles library. Alright, now there are a lot of cons that come with collecting for an entire console's library and completing the set. This is not for everyone. So let's take a look at some of these cons. First of all, it takes up a lot of space if you are going to collect for an entire console's library. Now, granted, some consoles libraries are smaller than others. After all, Hyperscan only has about 5 games. Meanwhile, if you are trying to go for the entire set for PlayStation 2, you're looking at over 1,850 games. That is a lot of games, and that is going to take up a lot of space. So if you are thinking about going for a full set for one of your favorite consoles, that is something you are going to want to keep in mind with how much space it's going to take up, because after all, game collecting is already a very space intensive hobby, and if you're going to go for an entire set for a console, you got to make sure that you've got the space to do it. Also, you're also going to buy a lot of games that you're probably not going to want to play or enjoy. After all, like if you are going to go for something such as original Xbox, you're going to get a lot of Maddens, a lot of sports games, and you're just going to get a lot of games that you're just not going to want to play. That's just the truth of the matter of it. Even if you collect for something like Wii U or Wii, right? Especially Wii, there's a lot of shovelware on the Wii. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of great games on the Wii, but there is a lot of shovelware. And I can tell you, I'm not going to be playing the majority of the Wii's library because of that reason. Like I said, great games on the console, but there's a lot of games that I would never want to play. So that's another thing that you're going to want to consider too when it comes to collecting for a full set. After all, tracking all the games, you're going to want to make sure that you either have like an app or some notes on your phone or whatever to help you track, to make sure that, hey, you've got this game, you don't have this game, all that, because there's also a very good chance you might pick up duplicates by accident, right? Like if you are collecting for Nintendo 64 and if you go to a garage sale, a thrift store, a game store, and say you don't think you have Super Mario 64 and it's not logged on your phone, there's a pretty good chance you might end up with a second copy of Super Mario 64 that isn't a variant. That's another thing that you're going to want to consider too. Also, it can be pretty darn expensive too, especially if you are collecting for Saturn, right? Saturn is a really expensive console to collect for. Panzer Dragoon Saga, Burning Rangers, you got to make sure that you've got some cash on you, like if you're going to be going for a full set for the Saturn. These are a few things that you got to consider when you are going for a full set. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some pros to this. There are things about going for a full set that can be fun, but there are some things that you really should take into consideration before you're ready to go all in on going for that full set for your favorite game console. So where do I stand when it comes to collecting an entire game console's library? Well, if you guys have been following the channel for a while, you guys know already that essentially I'm a completionist. What that means is I try to complete as many game console sets as I possibly can. So I will say, it's not for everyone, right? As mentioned from before, this takes up a lot of space, especially if you're going to be collecting for consoles with larger libraries. Now, there are consoles, as mentioned from before, that have smaller libraries. Hyperscan, Virtual Boy, N-Gage, Dreamcast, Master System. Those are all consoles with smaller libraries. The bigger libraries are obviously consoles such as PS2, Nintendo DS, Wii. You get the idea. Larger libraries. Now, I will say one thing I really do enjoy being a completionist is just because, as mentioned from before, I just think it's really cool to look at a shelf and see that, hey, this is every game ever made for a game console. Now, if you guys have also been following for a while, you know already that I've had to do some downsizing with the game room. I've had to be selective as to what games I have out on display, out on certain shelves, and I have to pack a few away because after all, I don't have the biggest space in the world, and I get it. Everybody's situation is different. Some homes have a basement. Some people live in apartments. Some people, wherever they're staying at has a different layout, right? Everybody has their own thing. If you guys want to know a little bit more about my whole thing with downsizing the game room, I've got an entire video all about it where you guys can check it out and know a little bit about more of my thought process with that. Now, of course, like I said, this is not cheap. Of course, there are also ways to where you can make the costs a lot lower and save you a little bit of some money. Again, I have another video that I'll show you guys right here to show you guys how you can save money when it comes to game collecting, which I've done a lot of these strategies when it's come to collecting for some of these game consoles that I really enjoy collecting for. As mentioned from before, this isn't for everyone. You really have to take into consideration about the space that you have. You got to have realistic expectations as to how big the libraries are, how big the games are. Sega Saturn cases are really, really huge, right? If you are going to be collecting for an entire Super Nintendo set, that's obviously, if you are going to go for complete in box, that's going to take up a lot of space. If you are just going to collect loose cartridges, obviously that's not going to take up as much space. Me personally, as mentioned from before, I really enjoy being a completionist, but ultimately, I think it's up to you to decide if this is something for you or not. After all, going for a full set for a game console isn't for everyone, and sometimes, depending on your situation, your game room layout, wherever you've got your game room or whatever, it's just not going to make sense to be a completionist. So again, you really have to think about, is this something for you? If you can do it and if you want to do it, awesome. But if for some reason you just don't want to buy a bunch of games that you know very well that you're just not going to want to play, you just don't have the room or whatever, that's also something you'll have to think about too. Just a few things when it comes to food for thought, when it comes to collecting for a full set. Hey guys, thank you so much for checking out my video. Please be sure to check out these videos here, and here. After all, I post a lot of content when it comes to game collecting tips, and other video game related subjects. So be sure to keep an eye out every Monday and Friday where I upload consistently, and I'll be seeing you guys next time.